The silence in the chamber felt heavy. Ambassador Lewis placed both hands flat on the crystalline podium, looking out at the 1,000 faces staring back at him. Some faces had 4 eyes, others had none. A few were just clouds of gas behind containment fields. All of them wore the same expression of smug satisfaction. He had practiced this speech for 3 weeks. Every word mattered. Every pause needed to land perfectly. But now that the moment had arrived, Lewis wanted to throw away the whole script and just scream. Instead, he spoke quietly. 47 years ago, humanity received the greatest honor in our history. You invited us to join the Galactic Council. You told us we had earned our place among the stars. We believed you meant it. The Rathai delegate made a clicking sound that Lewis recognized as laughter. The Dalmari ambassador was already checking his communication device, clearly bored. Council Speaker Orem, a being who looked like a floating jellyfish made of silver light, gestured impatiently. Ambassador Lewis, we have reviewed your complaints. The Council has determined that human concerns about pirate activity are exaggerated. We appreciate your enthusiasm, but perhaps your species should focus on matters you actually understand. 3 years. Lewis had spent 3 years writing reports, detailed intelligence about smuggling networks in the Outer Rim, evidence of weapons trafficking, proof that organized criminal syndicates were building a fleet larger than some council militaries. He had begged them to listen. He had shown them bodies. He had presented intercepted communications. The council had labeled every report as paranoia. Typical human anxiety, they said. Your species sees threats everywhere because your homeworld is so dangerous. Lewis pulled out a small data chip from his pocket. He held it up so everyone could see. This chip contains everything we know, 300,000 hours of surveillance, financial records showing which council members are taking bribes, names of officials who are protecting pirates, evidence that will destroy careers and topple governments. He set it down on the podium with a soft click. I am giving this to you freely, not as a threat, not as blackmail, as a final attempt to help. The chamber erupted in noise. Delegates shouted in 100 languages. Orem's form flared bright with what Lewis assumed was anger. How dare you accuse council members of corruption? This is outrageous. This is why your species does not belong here. Lewis had expected that reaction. He nodded slowly. You are absolutely right. We do not belong here. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a sealed document. I, Lewis Grant, Ambassador of the Human Federation, hereby submit humanity's formal resignation from the Galactic Council, effective immediately. The shouting stopped. Every translator in the chamber went silent as the words were processed. Orem floated closer, form poolsing in confusion. You cannot resign. No species has ever resigned from the council. This is absurd. This is childish. No, Lewis said. This is necessary. We have tried to be good partners. We have followed every rule. We have contributed our share of resources, technology, and personnel. And in return, you have treated us like stupid children who do not know their place. The Quenlin delegate, a being covered in crystalline scales, stood up. Good riddance. Humanity has been nothing but trouble since you arrived, always complaining, always worried, always trying to fix problems that do not exist. Lewis smiled, but there was no warmth in it. The problems exist. You will understand that soon enough. He picked up the data chip and placed it in the center of the podium where everyone could reach it. I leave this as a gift. Maybe you will use it. Maybe you will throw it away. Either way, we tried. We tried so hard to help you. The Dalmari ambassador finally looked up from his device. Help us, please. What have humans ever done for this council? You are a young species. You have no ancient wisdom, no special technology. You are barely worth the oxygen you breathe in this chamber. Something in Lewis broke, not in a dramatic way, more like a rope that had been stretched too far finally snapping. He laughed. It was not a happy sound. You really do not know, do you? You have no idea what we have been doing for the last 47 years. He started gathering his papers. You will find out soon enough. Good luck. Orem blocked his path. You cannot just leave. There are procedures, there are treaties, there are agreements. All of which include withdrawal clauses that we are invoking. Check your own laws, Speaker. Humanity has fulfilled every legal requirement. Lewis stepped around the floating form. Our ships will be gone from Council space within the week. Our embassies are already closing. Our personnel are being recalled. He walked toward the exit. His footsteps echoed in the suddenly quiet chamber. Behind him, delegates began whispering. Some were confused, others were celebrating. None of them understood what was about to happen. At the door, Lewis paused and turned back one final time. I want you to remember something. We did not leave because we hate you. We did not leave because we want revenge. We left because we are exhausted. Exhausted from trying to save people who think caring is a weakness. The door sealed behind him with a hiss. In the corridor, his security team was waiting. They looked nervous. Earth had never done anything like this before. Nobody had. Sir, one of them asked, are we really doing this? Lewis thought about the pirate fleets massing in the dark. He thought about the corruption spreading through council institutions. He thought about the disasters that were coming, the warnings that had been ignored, the help that had been rejected. Yes, he said, we are done trying to help people who despise us for it. Let them figure it out on their own. 3 days later, the last human ship left Council space. They left behind empty embassies, closed offices, and one data chip that nobody bothered to read. The Council celebrated humanity's departure with a vote of confidence. They declared it a new era of galactic harmony, freed from human interference. They had no idea the countdown had already begun. The merchant ship Prosperity's Dream tumbled through space, its hull torn open like paper. Inside the wreckage, 43 Dalmary crew members were dead. The pirates had taken everything worth selling and destroyed the rest. Captain Ryn of the Dalmary Defense Fleet stared at the bodies floating in the cargo bay. This was the 19th attack this month. 19 ships destroyed. Over 500 dead, all on the same trade route. Sir, another distress call. The Bright Horizon is under attack near the Kelvin Gate. Ryn closed his eyes. The Bright Horizon was a passenger liner, 2,000 civilians on board. His fleet was 3 hours away. By the time they arrived, it would be over. Send what we can. Mark the location for recovery teams. He hated those words. Recovery teams meant body collection. Back at Council headquarters, emergency sessions were becoming daily events. The massive chamber that had seemed so grand 3 months ago now felt like a tomb. Every day brought worse news. Speaker Orem floated at the center, form flickering with stress. We need solutions. The trade routes are collapsing. Merchants refuse to fly without military escorts we cannot provide. The Rathai delegate clicked his mandibles nervously. Our analysis shows the pirates are using coordinated attack patterns. They know exactly when our patrols will be in each sector. They know which routes are undefended. Impossible, the Quenlin representative said. Our patrol schedules are classified. How could pirates predict our movements? A junior Dalmary analyst named Prill stood up from the observation deck. She was young, barely allowed to attend council sessions, but she had been reviewing security reports for weeks, and the pattern was obvious. Because they are not predicting our movements, they are exploiting gaps in coverage we did not know existed. Orem turned to face her. Explain. Prill pulled up a holographic display. Red lines showed recent pirate attacks. Blue lines showed council patrol routes. The two never intersected. The pirates are hitting sectors we thought were being monitored, but when I checked the actual patrol logs, I found something strange. These sectors show as covered in our system, but no council ships have actually been there in months. The chamber went quiet. The Rathai delegate made a sound like grinding metal. "That is impossible. Our systems show full coverage. Someone must be patrolling those routes." Prill highlighted 200 different trade lanes on the display. "These routes all show green in our monitoring system, all listed as secure, but there are no Council patrol records, no logged flights, no reported incidents until 3 months ago." She let that sink in. Then she pulled up another file. "This is the communication log from the human embassy. Before they left, Ambassador Lewis sent weekly reports on patrol activities. 217 separate routes where human ships were providing security." The silence was absolute. Every delegate stared at the display. The blue lines representing human patrols perfectly matched the sectors that were now under attack. They were running patrols. Orem's voice was barely a whisper. "For how long?" "According to these records, 41 years, since 6 years after they joined the Council." Prill pulled up more files. "They never asked for payment, never requested recognition. They just did it." The Dalmari ambassador stood up, scales rattling with agitation. "This is ridiculous. Why would humans waste resources protecting trade routes they barely use? It makes no economic sense." Prill had wondered the same thing. She had found the answer in an old human report, filed away and never read. She displayed it now. Quote, "Trade routes are the arteries of galactic civilization. When they fail, everyone suffers. Someone needs to keep them safe. Since nobody else was doing it, we decided we would." End quote. The Quenlin delegate laughed, but it sounded forced. "So the humans appointed themselves as our protectors. How arrogant." "No," Prill said quietly. "They saw a problem nobody else was solving and fixed it, without asking permission, without demanding credit. They just did it because it needed doing." More reports started flooding in. Colony worlds in the Outer Rim were sending desperate messages. Places with names like New Harbor and Frost Haven. Small settlements that most Council members had never heard of. They all told the same story. Disasters that should have destroyed them had been prevented. Medical supplies that arrived just in time. Engineers who appeared when infrastructure failed. Rescue teams that nobody had requested but everyone needed. "All human, all gone now." The Windhoek delegate, representing a species of small flying beings, spoke for the first time in years. "The humans came to our world after the reactor leak. They spent 6 months making it safe again. Lost 11 of their own people to radiation. Never asked for anything in return. We offered them mining rights, territory, anything. They said helping was enough." Other small species began to speak up. Stories of human teachers who established schools on frontier worlds. Human doctors who worked in clinics serving species they had never met before. Human farmers who shared techniques that prevented famines. Orem tried to restore order. "This is all very touching, but we need to focus on the current crisis. The pirate attacks are escalating. We need to deploy our fleet." "Where?" the Rathai delegate asked. "We have 100 critical routes and enough ships to cover 20. The humans were filling gaps we did not even know existed. How many other gaps are there?" The answer came faster than anyone expected. Within a week, food shipments stopped arriving at 12 major worlds. The agricultural colonies that fed them had relied on human advisors for crop rotation schedules. Without that knowledge, yields were dropping by 40%. Medical crises erupted on 4 different planets. Diseases that should have been contained spread like fire. Turned out, human epidemiologists had been running prevention programs across dozens of worlds, working with local health officials so quietly that most governments did not even know they existed. Power grids started failing on industrial worlds. Energy management systems that everyone assumed were automatic had actually been maintained by human technicians who made regular visits and fixed problems before they became critical. The galaxy was not collapsing because humans had been holding it together. It was collapsing because humans had been holding it together and nobody had noticed. Dr. Amara Williams sat in her small apartment on Earth, drinking coffee and reading reports from across the galaxy. Each one made her sadder than the last. The Quinlan plague had killed 18,000 people in 2 weeks. She had worked on Quinlan Prime for 7 years, training local medical staff in disease prevention. The protocols she taught could have stopped the plague in days. But when she left, she took her knowledge with her. The Quinlan government had considered her work unimportant, barely worth acknowledging. Now they were dying. Her tablet pinged with another message. This one from the Pravian Confederacy. Their message was formal, cold, but the desperation leaked through every carefully chosen word. To Dr. Williams, the Pravian Medical Institute requests your consultation on the current agricultural blight affecting our food production. We are prepared to offer standard consultation fees. Amara deleted it. The Pravian had thrown her out of their medical conference 3 years ago, called her research primitive, said humans had no business lecturing advanced species about healthcare. Now their crops were dying from a fungal infection she could have cured in a week. Her phone rang. Her sister Rachel, calling from the Refugee Processing Center in New Geneva. Amara, we have a problem. We have 6,000 refugees here, more arriving every hour. They are all from council space, all begging for help. What species? Mostly windhook and small colony groups. They said conditions in their sectors have become unlivable. Pirates everywhere. No food shipments. No medical support. They heard Earth was accepting refugees and came here. Amara felt a headache building. What did the director say? She said to process them and provide basic support, same as we always do. The council condemned us for it, by the way, called it poaching their citizens. Of course they did. The council had spent 6 months post-withdrawal passing resolutions condemning humanity, accused them of abandoning their responsibilities, of being selfish, of engineering the crisis deliberately. Never mind that humans had been begging the council to address these exact problems for years. Across space, the crisis deepened. The massive Tanworth station, home to 3 million beings from 100 different species, faced complete life support failure. The station's environmental systems were crashing, and nobody knew why. Station Director Holies, a Dalmarie administrator, pulled up the maintenance records in desperation. What he found made his blood run cold. For 23 years, a human engineering team had been visiting Tanworth every 6 months. They performed routine maintenance, updated software, replaced aging components. Their reports were filed automatically and nobody ever read them. The station just worked, so why pay attention? The last human visit was 4 months ago. They left detailed notes about a critical system upgrade that needed to happen within 6 months. They even left the required parts in storage. Holies found the parts still in their boxes, unopened. The upgrade instructions were written in clear, simple language, but his best engineers looked at the human systems and admitted they had no idea how they worked. Sir, these environmental controls are running on integrated human-designed code. Our people never learned how to maintain it because the humans always did it for us. 3 million lives hung in the balance because nobody had bothered to learn from the people doing the work. Holies sent an emergency message to Earth, begged them to send engineers, offered any price. The response came from a human official named Peterson. We forwarded your request to the team that used to service Tanworth Station. They said the instructions are clear enough for any qualified engineer to follow. They included a video tutorial. Good luck. The Council military faced an even worse revelation. Fleet Commander Tavis of the Rathai Defense Force was reviewing tactical software when his system crashed. The backup crashed. The emergency backup crashed. Within an hour, the entire Rathai fleet was dead in space. The investigation revealed the horrible truth. 30 years ago, humans had helped upgrade the Rathai tactical systems. They installed what they called an integrated combat management platform. It worked so perfectly that the Rathai had built their entire fleet doctrine around it. Nobody had questioned where the software came from. Nobody had asked how it worked. They just used it. The software license had expired when humanity left the Council. The whole system locked itself down automatically. Tavis sent furious messages to Earth demanding they restore access. The response was simple. The software license was tied to our Council membership. We are no longer members. Purchase a new license through standard commercial channels if you want access restored. The price was astronomical, more than the Rathai military budget for a year. They had no choice but to pay. Similar discoveries happened daily. Humans had been integrated into galactic infrastructure so completely that their absence created cascading failures everywhere. Water purification systems on colony worlds stopped working. Turned out human environmental engineers had been maintaining them remotely. Asteroid mining operations ground to halt. Human safety consultants had developed the protocols that kept miners alive in dangerous environments. Education networks collapsed. Human teachers had been running virtual schools for frontier worlds, providing lessons to children in remote areas. The Council had assumed all these services were provided by their own people or by automated systems. They never realized humans were doing the unglamorous background work that kept civilization functioning. Prill spent her days documenting every discovery. She created a database of human contributions that grew larger every hour. Medical programs, infrastructure maintenance, disaster response, educational initiatives, agricultural support. The list seemed endless. She found records of human volunteers who had died helping other species, engineers killed in reactor accidents, doctors who caught diseases while treating patients, rescue workers who lost their lives saving strangers. The Council had never acknowledged any of them, never held memorials, never learned their names. Most painful were the requests for help. The small messages from colony worlds, from individuals, from communities that had relied on human assistance. A school on a frontier world asking when their human teacher would return. Children had written letters thanking her for teaching them to read. A mining station requesting the safety inspector who had saved their lives twice. They wanted to thank him personally. A medical clinic asking about the doctor who had delivered 300 bobbies and never accepted payment. All those humans were gone, back to Earth, back to their own space. They had spent decades helping people who never appreciated them. Now those same people were drowning in problems they did not know how to solve. Prill could not sleep. She had spent 6 months investigating what humans actually did for the galaxy, and every new discovery made her feel worse. Tonight she was reading personnel files. Humans who had worked for the Council in various capacities, translators, engineers, mediators, scientists, thousands of them. Most had job titles that sounded boring: administrative assistant, logistics coordinator, data analyst. She picked one at random. Martin Webb, listed as infrastructure maintenance supervisor for Sector 7. The job description was vague. His actual work logs told a different story. Webb had prevented 47 catastrophic failures over 15 years. Reactor meltdowns, dam collapses, bridge failures. He traveled constantly, inspecting infrastructure that local governments ignored. When he found problems, he fixed them quietly, filing reports that nobody read. He died 4 years ago, killed in an electrical accident while repairing a power station on a Dalmary colony world. The station would have exploded without his intervention, killing thousands. The local government sent a form letter thanking the council for its service. They never learned his name. Prill found his personal logs in the archive. One entry stood out. Today I prevented my 32nd major disaster. Nobody will ever know. That is fine. I did not become an engineer for recognition. I did it because infrastructure failure kills people and I can stop it from happening. That is enough. She found hundreds of similar stories. Humans who spent careers preventing disasters, saving lives, solving problems. None of them asked for medals or monuments. They just did the work because it needed doing. The contrast with other council species was stark. When a Rathai engineer solved a problem, there were ceremonies. When a Quinlan scientist made a discovery, they received honors and prestige. The council celebrated achievement constantly. But they never celebrated the people who kept things running, the ones who fixed problems before they became achievements. Those jobs were considered beneath notice. Humans had taken all those jobs. They did the invisible work that made everything else possible. Prill compiled her research into a presentation. She titled it, "The Hidden Foundation: What Humanity Actually Did." She submitted it to the council for review. The response was immediate and hostile. Speaker Orem called her into his office. His form pulsed with anger. "What do you think you are doing? This presentation makes the council look incompetent." "It makes the council look honest," Prill replied. "We made a mistake, a huge mistake. We need to acknowledge it. Acknowledge that we needed humans, that we depended on them, that we are suffering because they left." Orem's form flared bright. "That is political suicide. The council would lose all credibility." "The council is losing credibility anyway. The economy has contracted by 40%. Crime is epidemic. Infrastructure is failing everywhere. Entire sectors are collapsing." Prill pulled up the latest casualty reports. 30,000 dead this month from preventable disasters. How many more have to die before we admit we need help? "We do not need help from humans. We need to solve our own problems." "With what? We do not have enough trained personnel. We do not have the systems they built. We do not even understand half of what they were doing." Prill felt her frustration boiling over. They were maintaining our civilization, and we were too arrogant to notice. Orem dismissed her, but Prill did not give up. She released her presentation on the public networks. Within hours, it had been viewed 1 billion times. The response was explosive. Younger generations across dozens of species were furious. They had been told humans were primitive, emotional, weak. Now they learned humans had been holding everything together while their own leaders took credit. Protests erupted on council worlds. Demonstrators demanded answers. Why had the council driven away the people who were keeping them safe? Why had they treated human contributions with contempt? The older generation pushed back hard. They insisted humans had exaggerated their importance. They claimed the current crisis was temporary, that everything would stabilize soon. But the crisis kept getting worse. The wormhole network started destabilizing. The massive gates that allowed faster-than-light travel began showing strange readings, energy fluctuations, temporal distortions. Engineers checked the systems and found something terrifying. The network was maintained by incredibly complex quantum algorithms that nobody fully understood. They had been installed 30 years ago during a major upgrade. The documentation said the upgrade was performed by council engineers. The actual truth, buried in old files, was different. Human physicists had developed the algorithms. Human engineers had implemented them. The council engineers had just taken credit. Now those algorithms needed maintenance, and nobody knew how to do it. The humans who designed them were back on Earth, and they were not answering calls. 3 major gates shut down completely. Entire sectors were cut off from the rest of the galaxy. Trade stopped. Travel became impossible. Billions of beings found themselves stranded. The Pravine Confederacy sent a formal delegation to Earth. They offered a treaty of alliance, trade agreements, anything humans wanted. Just please help stabilize the wormhole network. Earth's response was delivered by Ambassador Lewis in a public broadcast. For 47 years we helped you. We maintained your infrastructure. We protected your trade routes. We educated your children. We healed your sick. We did all of this while you treated us with contempt. His voice was calm, but there was steel underneath. We are not coming back to fix your problems. We are done being your servants. However, Lewis continued, we are willing to help those who ask respectfully, not as subordinates, not as servants, as equals, as partners. Any species or government that approaches us with genuine respect will find us ready to assist. The Council hardliners called this blackmail. They passed resolutions condemning human arrogance. They insisted the galaxy would recover without human help. But the younger generation saw things differently. They saw a species that had given everything and received nothing but scorn. A species that was now offering partnership on equal terms. The Windhoek were the first to break. Their government formally withdrew from the Council and requested alliance with Earth. Within a week, 23 other small species followed. The exodus had begun. The refugee ships kept coming. Every day, thousands more beings arrived in human space, fleeing the collapse in Council territory. They came in cargo haulers, passenger liners, private yachts, anything that could fly. Director Sarah Kim stood at the observation window of Gateway Station, watching another convoy arrive. 12 ships this time, mixed species, mostly civilians, all desperate. Her assistant brought the latest numbers. We have processed 47,000 refugees this week. Housing is at maximum capacity. Medical facilities are overwhelmed. We need more resources. Sarah nodded. Send the request to Earth. They will approve it. They always do. That was the thing about humans. Even after everything the Council had done, even after years of contempt and dismissal, they still helped anyone who asked. They could not seem to stop themselves. Meanwhile, in Council space, the situation reached critical mass. The energy grid in Sector 12 suffered a complete cascade failure. 17 worlds went dark simultaneously. Hospitals lost power. Life support systems failed on orbital stations. Millions died in the first hour. The Council emergency response teams mobilized, but they were too few and too late. The infrastructure was too damaged. The problems too complex. A desperate message reached Earth from the Sector 12 governor. Please, we have children dying, old people freezing, hospitals shutting down. We will accept any terms, just help us. The human response team arrived within 18 hours. They brought portable generators, medical supplies, food, water, everything needed for emergency relief. They worked for 3 weeks straight, sleeping in shifts, rebuilding critical systems. When they finished, the sector governor tried to thank them, tried to offer payment. The team leader, an engineer named David Park, refused. We do not help people because we expect something in return. We help because people need help. That is all the reason we need. The Council watched this happen with growing alarm. Every time humans provided aid, more species questioned why they were still part of the Council. Why were they following leaders who had driven away the people who actually cared about their welfare? The Council military tried to reassert control. They announced a major operation to clear out the pirate networks. It was a disaster. Without human intelligence, without human coordination systems, the fleet blundered into ambushes. 63 ships destroyed. Over 4,000 military personnel dead. Fleet Commander Tavis resigned in disgrace. In his resignation letter, he wrote something that shocked the entire galaxy. We did not lose because our equipment failed. We lost because we forgot how to work together. The humans taught us coordination, cooperation, mutual support. When they left, they took that knowledge with them. We are not just missing their technology, we are missing their way of thinking. The economic collapse accelerated. The galactic currency lost 60% of its value. Banks failed. Corporations went bankrupt. The council tried to stabilize the economy with emergency measures, but everything they tried made things worse. Prill, now working as an independent analyst, discovered why. The council economy had been built on a foundation of human subsidies, not direct payments, something subtler. Humans had been accepting lower pay for critical jobs. They had been doing expensive work for free. They had been sharing technology openly while other species hoarded it. They had been training workers, establishing supply chains, creating efficiency. The entire system had been built assuming humans would keep doing this forever. Now that assumption was shattered. Speaker Orem called an emergency session. The council chamber was half empty. Dozens of species had already left. The ones remaining looked exhausted. We must make a decision. Continue as we are and face complete collapse, or reach out to humanity and request their return. The Quinlan delegate stood up. Request their return after they abandoned us, after they engineered this crisis. We should demand they come back, threaten them with economic sanctions. Prill laughed. She could not help it. The sound echoed in the chamber. Sanctions? Against humans. They have formed their own federation with 70 allied species. Their economy is growing while ours collapses. They control the most productive sectors of space. What exactly would you sanction? The Rathai delegate made a grinding sound. Then what do you suggest? We apologize. We admit we were wrong. We ask them respectfully to help us, as equals. Never. The Quinlan delegate's scales rattled with rage. The council does not apologize to inferior species. Then the council will die, Prill said flatly, because we cannot survive without them. The data is clear. Every system they maintained is failing. Every program they ran is collapsing. We need them far more than they need us. The vote was called. The council would send a formal request to Earth asking for negotiations. Not a demand, not an order, a request. It passed by the narrowest margin possible. The human response came from Lewis himself. He appeared on every screen in council space, broadcasting from Earth. The Galactic Council has requested negotiations. We accept. But understand this, we are not coming back to the old system. We are not returning to being your servants while you take credit for our work. If we rebuild this relationship, it will be as equals, as true partners. He paused, letting that sink in. To the species who have joined our federation, we thank you for your trust. We will continue working together to build something better. To the species still with the council, you are welcome to join us if you choose to change. To the council leadership, we will meet with you, but we will not accept half measures or empty promises. The broadcast ended. Across the galaxy, beings made their choices. Some stayed with the council, hoping for a return to the old ways. Some joined the Human Federation, seeking a different future. The Dalmari government was deeply divided. Prill became the leader of a reformist faction demanding change. Her opponents insisted that accepting human help meant surrendering Dalmari pride. Pride, Prill addressed her people in a planetary broadcast. What good is pride when our children are starving, when our infrastructure crumbles, when our future dies because we are too arrogant to admit we made a mistake? Her words resonated. The Dalmari government fell. A new administration took power, with Prill as the ambassador to the Human Federation. Her first official act was to issue a formal apology for how the council had treated humanity. Her second was to request an alliance based on mutual respect. The galaxy was splitting in two. The old council, clinging to pride and tradition. The new federation, built on cooperation and honesty. The choice was clear. One path led to collapse, the other led to something new. 2 years after the withdrawal, Ambassador Prill stood in the new Federation Assembly Hall on Earth. The building was different from the old council chamber, less grand, less imposing, but somehow more real. Around her sat representatives from 93 different species: humans, Dalmari, Windhoek, and dozens of others, species that had chosen cooperation over pride, partnership over hierarchy. Lewis stood at the podium. He looked older than Prill remembered. The last 2 years had been hard on everyone. Today we ratify the Federation Charter. This document represents a new way forward, not based on who joined first or who has the most advanced technology, based on mutual respect, shared responsibility, and honest cooperation. The vote was unanimous. The charter passed. A new galactic order had been born. In the old council space, things were very different. The remaining species had fragmented into competing alliances: the Quenlin Compact, the Rathai Defense League, the Remnant Coalition. Each one claimed to be the true successor to the council. None of them were working. The infrastructure kept failing. The economy kept contracting. People kept leaving, fleeing to Federation space where the systems actually worked. Speaker Orem had been removed from power 6 months ago. He now lived in exile on a remote colony, watching the empire he had helped destroy crumble further every day. Prill sometimes wondered if he understood what had happened, if he realized that pride and arrogance had destroyed more than any war could have. The Federation was not perfect. There were arguments, disagreements, cultural clashes. But there was also something the old council had never had: a willingness to admit mistakes, a commitment to actually solving problems instead of just talking about them. Humans were still doing a lot of the background work, still maintaining infrastructure, running programs, fixing problems. But now they were recognized for it. Now they worked alongside partners instead of being ignored subordinates. Prill had spent the last year learning everything she could from human engineers and scientists, learning how they thought, how they approached problems, what made their methods work. She discovered something important. Human success was not about technology or intelligence. It was about attitude. Humans saw problems as challenges to solve, not threats to avoid. They saw other species as partners to help, not competitors to defeat. They believed that a rising tide lifted all boats, that everyone benefited when everyone succeeded. It was a radical idea in a galaxy that had spent millennia focused on competition and hierarchy. The Federation grew steadily, not through conquest or coercion, through example. Species saw the difference between Federation territory and Council remnant space, saw working systems versus failing ones, saw cooperation versus conflict. The choice was obvious. The wormhole network in Federation space was stable. Humans had shared the algorithms with their partners, training thousands of engineers in maintenance procedures. The network in Council remnant space kept deteriorating. Trade routes in Federation space were secure. Combined defense forces, with humans and other species working together, had eliminated piracy. Council remnant space was a war zone. Medical care in Federation space was advanced and accessible. Human doctors worked with alien colleagues, sharing knowledge freely. In Council remnant space, diseases that should have been curable killed thousands. The contrast became impossible to ignore. One by one, the remaining Council species began reaching out, not with demands, not with arrogance, with genuine requests for help. The Rathai came first. Their representative was Fleet Commander Tavis, restored to duty after the military coup that overthrew the old government. He stood before the Federation Assembly and did something no Rathai had done in 1,000 years. He apologized. "We were wrong. We treated humans with contempt when they deserved respect. We ignored their warnings when we should have listened. We took credit for their work when we should have acknowledged it. We are sorry." The chamber was silent. Tavis continued. We are not asking to return to the old system. We know that is gone. We are asking for a chance to join the Federation, to be partners, to learn from our mistakes and build something better. The vote took 3 hours. There were concerns, doubts. The Rathai had been among the worst offenders in the old council. Could they really change? Lewis stood up during the debate. We are not building the Federation for perfect species. We are building it for real ones, species that make mistakes and learn from them. The Rathai have admitted their errors. They are asking for a chance to do better. That is all any of us can ask. The Rathai were admitted. Their ships joined Federation defense forces. Their engineers began learning from human methods. Their culture started changing slowly, accepting that cooperation was strength, not weakness. The Quinlan took longer. Their pride ran deep. But eventually, as their systems collapsed and their people suffered, even they had to face reality. Their new government sent Ambassador Prill a message. She had become something of a legend, the person who forced the galaxy to see the truth. How did you do it? How did you convince your people to change? Prill's response was simple. I showed them the cost of pride, and I showed them the benefits of humility. The rest was their choice. 3 years after the withdrawal, the old Galactic Council officially dissolved. The last remnant species joined the Federation. The transition was complete. Lewis stood in the assembly hall one final time as the acting coordinator. Elections for permanent leadership would happen next month. He would not be running. He was tired, ready to go home. We built something new here, he told the gathered representatives. Not through force, not through manipulation, through honest cooperation, by treating each other with respect, by acknowledging that everyone has something valuable to contribute. He looked around at the diverse beings filling the chamber. The old council fell apart when humans left because it was built on a lie. The lie that some species were naturally superior, that some contributions mattered more than others, that caring about others was weakness. This Federation is built on a different foundation. The truth that every species has strengths, that all contributions matter, that caring about others is the greatest strength of all. Prill watched from her seat. She thought about Martin Webb, the engineer who died saving strangers, about the thousands of other humans who had worked in obscurity, helping people who never thanked them. They had changed the galaxy not through conquest or technology, through simple kindness, through the radical act of caring about others. The universe had not fallen apart when humans quit the council. It had fallen apart because nobody else had learned to care the way humans did. Now, finally, they were learning. It was a